Welcome to another webinar hosted by Socialist Action in the Canadian state. We acknowledge that this event takes place on the unceded territories of the Mississaugas of the New Credit and Haudenosaunee people and on Indigenous lands of Turtle Island across North America. We join in the fight for justice, recognizing that there can be no real reconciliation without restitution. That entails seizing the assets of the big resource corporations and returning them to the commons. My name is Elizabeth Byce. I'm a retired member of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, Federal Treasurer of the NDP Socialist Caucus, and a leading member of Socialist Action, and your host for today. This year marks the 32nd anniversary of the founding of Socialist Action in the Canadian state. I hope you enjoyed this educational event centered on a very important strike now blazing across Ontario. If you want to change the world, please get directly involved in our party. We warmly invite you to join Socialist Action. So now let's turn to the hot issue at hand. Why are 4,000 social workers on strike across Ontario? The social workers, member of the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, OPSEU, collected demand funding to ensure the continuation of the care and support they provide to many of the most vulnerable people in their communities. The workers also seek a pay increase denied to them due to the wonderful Ontario Premier Doug Ford's unconstitutional Bill 124 over the past 2 years. They work at some 27 social service agencies across the province. Speakers on the webinar today will include Picket Captain Patricia Crooks, who is OPSEU Local 540, and of course Julius Arscott, who is president of OPSEU Local 532. Following the opening remarks by each speaker, there will be time for questions and answers, and finally some concluding remarks. And by the way, there will be, I'm sure, a number of strikers online, so we encourage them to ask to speak and to make supplementary remarks about their own experiences and working in the field. The current sectorial strike is bold, historic, and inspiring, a story that all workers and allies need to know. So first, let's hear from the strike leader. Sister Patricia Crooks is a longtime social worker and the communication director for Local 540 and picket captain at Sistering. So you have up to 20 minutes and you now have the floor, sister.
Good afternoon and solidarity to everyone who's on the line. So as Elizabeth has said, my name is Patricia Crooks. I'm a community worker at Sistering, which is a 24-hour agency in Toronto, and I'm also a member of OPSEU Local 540. At Sistering, we support women who are unhoused, women who have lost their jobs, women who are dealing with mental health and addiction challenges. Many of the people we support have lived through abuse and trafficking. These are just some of the vulnerable people that we serve in the city of Toronto, people in our community. I love my job at Sistering. However, over the past couple of years, we've run into many, many difficulties. I've been at Sistering for the past 10 years, and I have colleagues who've been there for at least 30 years, 17 years. In our stay at Sistering and our work at Sistering, it's become very, very difficult. Over the years, we are not able to do the job efficiently and effectively because the funding has gone down. We're not able to provide the women with the necessities of life, just giving them, whether it's shampoos, whether it's sufficient food, whatever it is. And one of the worst things about my job sometimes is during the winter time, it is very difficult for me and my colleagues to turn away women when we don't have the space to do so. So these are the things that we're fighting for, to get better services in the organization. We understand our workers are very burnt out right now. Most of the women that I work with have, I would say, 2.5 jobs, meaning that they work full-time at Sistering and full-time somewhere else, and sometimes they even have to take a weekend jobs to make ends meet in our society today. As Sister, we're being asked to do more and more every day with less of what we have. We're being forced to choose between whether we work with the women effectively or we just sit down and just say we can't do the job. This is why we're on strike. We're fighting for funding our agency needs, for wages stolen under Bill 124, and for the future of these services. The reality is that many of us are just 2 paychecks away from being in the same position as our clients. When I say that, I'm on strike right now, and the funds that I make is barely enough to pay my bills, but I'm going to do it. I'm struggling, but that's what it takes to get what we deserve and need. That's what it's going to take. To this government, I say we're doing the work that he wouldn't do, and we deserve better than what we're getting right now. I call this a two-headed sword, and I say it's a two-headed sword because we're fighting for the funding for the workers, and we're fighting for our retroactive pay of 6.5 for the workers, but we're also fighting for better funding for the organization that we work in, that we all work in, the 27 organizations. We just can't go on like this anymore. It's going to be a burnout. And when people burn out, remember that it is the vulnerable ones that get the reaction of the burnout. And from what I can see, the Ford government does not care, because we're asking them. We know that our employer should give us the money, but right now our employers can't afford it because the funding is not there. So this is why we've decided to go after the Ford government so that he can fund us our 6.5 and also fund the organizations that we work in much better. So that's basically why we're on strike right now. And we're not going to stop until we get what we deserve. And most importantly, we're not going to stop until we get the services that our clients deserve. So if there's any questions after that, greatly appreciate it. We've been online for 7 weeks now, and we're willing to go 7 more if we have to. We've asked our employer as well to join us. We've asked her to ask them, both the employer, the ED, and the board, to stand with us in solidarity in writing a letter to the Ford government, and we have been rejected. They refuse to do it. Whether they're afraid to do it because of funding or funders, they've rejected to do so. So we're going to stay on the line. We're going to stay on the line until we get what we want and our clients are treated with respect and dignity. And we're treated with respect and dignity. I always say, Ford was elected by some of the people, but his job is to serve all of the people, not just his friends, not just his buddies, not just corporations, and not just those who are making multitudes of dollars. We also need to be funded. Inflation is getting higher. Rent is getting higher, as mine just went up. Groceries are getting higher. Healthcare is getting higher. Right now, I'm here. I don't have healthcare, basically, except for the one that the union is giving me. And we know that it's great, but it's not as much. And I'm up in age. And I have many health issues that I need my healthcare for, but I can't get it right now. So instead of going to the cottage and playing golf with your friends, think of the vulnerable sectors that are here dependent on you. Think of the vulnerable people that are here dependent on you. And one of the things I say, I'm not just out there fighting for myself, but I'm also fighting for the future generation that's coming up. Because if we find it hard now, imagine what our future generation is going to feel and look like. It's so disgusting because mental health is on the rise. Addiction is on the rise. You name it, it's on the rise. In my job, I see just 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, one of our young female clients passed away on an overdose. Perhaps if the consumption sites were open, she probably wouldn't have passed away. She would have had somebody to help her. But because those facilities are not there anymore, people who are addicted or users are on their own. we try our best at the drop-in to serve those that we can the best way that we can. Because I always say that when we're in the drop-in, we are the first line of defense. We are the ones that are there for people who have overdosed. We're the ones that are there for people who need an ambulance. We're the ones that are there for people who are in trouble, right? So I'm asking the Ford government to get off your high horse, get off your pumping your pride, and remember that you were elected by people. We put you in government. So therefore, we can take you out of that government. You need to stand for the people that you're supposed to serve. There's not much I can say more than we want our money, and we want our organizations to be properly funded by the Ford government. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Okay, our next speaker is Julius Arscott. He is the president of OPSEU Local 532 in the Ontario Ministry of the Environment. He is a past 3 times elected OPSEU executive board member and a leading member of Socialist Action. Go ahead, Julius.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Patricia, for your inspiring presentation. One week longer, 1 week stronger.
1 week
And
stronger.
coming out of this experience, you and all of your colleagues that you're working with will come out with a sense of solidarity and purpose, and you're going to remember this experience, and we're all going to remember this experience because your strike is historic for OPSEU. So I work in the Ontario Public Service. I'm a ministry worker. But as you know, but most of our audience wouldn't know, you belong to the broader public service, of
Yes.
which there are many, probably hundreds of collective agreements across the entire BPS across the province. But what's really special about what has happened is that OPSEU has organized a sectoral strike. And I think it's the first sectoral strike of its kind affecting workers such as yourself, in which all of these different agencies across the province have organized and are all negotiating at the same time. And of course, that makes sense, doesn't it? Instead of us being piecemeal, negotiating here and there, getting some gains here, getting big losses there. Um, it's difficult for our members, such as yourself, Patricia, to see people who are doing similar work not being treated or compensated equally. And of course, it's also taxing on the union centrally, which has to put resources for every single bargaining unit if they're separate collective agreements. And in this situation, it's being done together, and we have the resources and the stamina 7 weeks in to keep going. You can hear my little ones in the background, probably. I'm just so inspired by the actions that have taken place. So you made mention of Doug Ford's cottage. That was just brilliant. Ford Fest was another great one. And I'm seeing you in the news. I'm not in the loop as much as I was before when I was on the executive board, but it's all very inspiring. So why is this happening now? I mean, well, of course, collective agreements expire, and but why are you engaged in a sectoral strike? And I would argue that I think that the leadership of our union and the change of strategy and how the union negotiates some contracts is a big factor. And I would, as someone who has been on the board for 3 terms, I've been active in OPSEU for 18 years. It's clear to me that this positive changes as a direct result of the leadership of OPSEU, of the election of JP Hornick, who's been reelected for a 3rd term as president. Lori Nanscoville is also a 3rd term as VP, and of course the leadership of the of your bargaining units as well, who obviously have been part of the organizing of this strike and getting members together. Um, so, and it's wild to think that we're still dealing with Bill 124 and the aftermath. I mean, this bill, which after many years in the boss's courts, was found to be illegal,
Illegal.
is still having an impact on workers in this province. The fact that they have not been compensated the 6.5% retroactive pay that you folks are now forced to go on strike over. It's totally absurd. But we also know that this is a part of history. In 20, that is the fight back against Bill 124, which is Doug Ford's pet project with the public service. Um, in 2022, there was a threat by CUPE OSBCU and OPSEU members who joined in solidarity of a general strike and that was supported by much of the labor movement. So essentially, what had happened at that time, to refresh people's memory, excuse me, is Doug Ford threatened to implement what was called Bill 28 at the time. It was the Keeping Students in Class Act, and essentially what it was the use of the notwithstanding clause or back to work legislation because the workers had gone out on strike over wages and other issues that were implemented as a result of Bill 124. So Ford threatened the notwithstanding clause on those workers, and CUPE, the CUPE division and CUPE provincially, and the labor movement, after internal discussions, made it known that if Doug Ford did not rescind Bill 28, that the labor movement was going to walk out in a general strike action. And it had been the first time that any such threat had been made in the province of Ontario for decades. And the threat was real. I was on the board at the time, and I was in some of those meetings that took place. So I observed what was taking place, and it was real. And um, it was only within an hour of the public announcement of there being a general strike that Doug Ford's government finally capitulated and completely rescinded Bill 28. So the lesson is mass action gets the goods. Even the threat of mass action gets the goods. It was historic. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry that the, well, there certainly are an impact from that time, but I think that, we're talking about bigger issues here too. Patricia, I know that the work that you do is so significant and important for our communities. I think about, you know, many social services in our province and our society that are underfunded and underappreciated, but well, not underappreciated because people do appreciate it, but they're just under-resourced. They're not profitable to the capitalist class. And so when I think of folks such as yourselves, when I think of folks such even midwives, like I've got two young ones at home, they're not compensated very well for the important work they do. And the list goes on and on of our public service workers who are precarious, who are forced to work 2.5 jobs, as you had mentioned, in a climate where the cost of living is just through the roof and getting worse. So I'll end with just a call for solidarity with you folks and the important fight and the example that you're setting for members of OPSEU, but also across the labor movement. I'm a bit jealous. I am in the OPS. We're a big division, but the OPS is made up of several unions. And they play the game. They play the leapfrog game every round of bargaining. And it would be much more effective if we just all worked together and negotiated together, and if needed, went out together. So thank you so much for what you're doing and solidarity.
Thank you very much, Julius. And now we're going to open the floor for questions. And what I will do is that I will take two, maybe three, but two questions, and then go back to both panelists so they can answer both questions if they wish, or one question. Is up to them. And at that time, I will give them their time. But for participants asking questions, you to 3 minutes. So I'll let our producer know that. And also, I'm hoping Carrie will help me if a question is put in the chat. All right. So the first hand that I saw go up with a question is Yukon. Go ahead, comrade. Go ahead.
Could you remind me what were you suggesting? What were you talking about?
Are you speaking to me, Yukon?
Sorry.
Probably it's a wrong hand.
Yeah, because
no,
I saw something on my screen that warned me like to talk.
Okay, so you didn't mean to speak at this time. Okay, my apologies, comrade. No problem. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just saw your hand go up, so I put you on my list. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so we're looking for our first question of the day to our panelists. There must be somebody that wants to ask a question. Barry, go ahead.
Hello, Patricia.
Hi.
I'm the Barry who's been visiting your picket line.
Hi, Barry.
At least once or twice a week. And I must say, living in this neighborhood with your struggle unfolding in front of the whole community, I'm proud to know you. I'm proud to support you. And as a socialist, as a federal secretary of Socialist Action, I just want to say a few words, and you can respond, so can Julius, to what I'm about to say. The problem is capitalism. It's not just that Doug Ford doesn't have a heart. He's totally, at the service of the super rich, the big bankers, the war machinery, the state apparatus, the giant, corporations, whether it's in the food sector or the mining sector or any other. It's about capitalism and its priorities. And the priorities, in my opinion, are upside down. The things that matter the most are put at the bottom. The things that matter the least, that is the power and wealth of the ruling class, goes to the top of the pyramid. And that's wrong. And this system, capitalism, can't be fixed. It was designed to operate the way that it does, and it cannot be changed without getting rid of the system altogether. And that's what socialists believe. But there's some things we know about the present trends unfolding in our society. The basic defense organization of workers against economic exploitation by the big boys on the block is the union. And organized at the workplace level, unions can quickly form alliances across different sectors. And that's what you are showing. That's why your strike is so historic. The capitalist state was long ago compelled to accept unions as legal entities with the right to bargain collectively and to enforce union negotiated agreements. Struggles for union recognition were massive, often violent, pitched against the police and armed forces, frequently unfolding over decades. Now, we haven't seen that on Bloor Street at Dovercourt, but it could come to that if the workers stand up together and fight for what is ours. And there are some changes. Across the Canadian state, according to Statistics Canada in 2023, there is a total of 5 million union members covered by a collective agreement. That's 30% of the workforce. Can you imagine the strength we'd have if it was 40% or 50 or 60 or 70 or 80% the way it is in Scandinavia?
30 seconds.
This means that 3 in 10 workers belong to a union. It could be so much better. And the other interesting thing about it, and I see this every time I come to your picket line, the demographic profile of union members in Canada has changed over the past 50 years. In 1977, 12% of union members were women. Today, 48% of union members are women. Women are taking on leadership roles in several unions, resulting in an increase in militancy a strong fight for childcare, maternity and paternity leave, equal pay, and equal access to higher paying jobs. So glad to see this, and it's because this is I call it a feminist strike. When I see 100% of the people on the picket line are women and majority women of color,
Time's up, Aaron.
we know that you represent the majority and you're going to win. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to move now before I go back to the panelists. I'm going to move to Rubina. Then we will go to the panelists and come back. And I have a couple of speakers, a question from the chat and also a speaker online. So Rubina, 3 minutes.
Elizabeth Bo's hand was before me.
I know that, but I do gender parity, sister. You should know that.
Okay, my question is to Patricia. Patricia, I'm a little confused about the increasing rate. Why you were asking to increase exactly 6.5%? And to Julius, you said about Bill 128, and 120 is for cooling and for summer. So how it is related with other shelters?
Okay, so you each have up to 5 minutes to answer the question, and I will go to Julius first and then to Patricia.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I was talking about Bill 124. If I said 128, that was a mistake. I made reference to Bill 28, which was a bill that was rescinded. Bill 124 was defeated in the courts. And I did see a question on the side wanting from Emma wanting to know. So Bill 124 was a bill that strictly capped the total compensation and wage increases together. So it wasn't just wage, it was all compensation for all public sector workers provincially at 1%. And so that impacted roughly 780,000 workers across the province of Ontario. Okay. And of course, a 1% increase, as you know, and you feel it, is far below the rate of inflation, meaning the rate of the increase of the costs of goods and services. Okay, so and in effect, it is a compensation decrease because the cost of living increases year by year. I hope I've made that clear. Barry's, I agree, Barry. Capitalism can't be fixed. And this is about capitalism, and it is an upside down world on a whole bunch of issues. But I think that, it's, what can you say? We have to keep fighting. The impulse of the boss class to increase their rate of increase of wealth is a serious problem for humanity. We have our first trillionaire in the history of the world in a period where so many people, the vast majority of humanity, one way or another, is suffering on many fronts. And the cost of living is one of those, and it's very real. So capitalism has to go. But it can only go when workers are organized and develop a class consciousness, and when they realize that really the cards are stacked against us, and the only way that we're going to change things is to work together in solidarity, to challenge the boss in the workplace and to challenge the system everywhere else, including in the workplace. So, wage stagnation is a classic way for the bosses to increase their rate of profits. While the cost of things keep going up, they keep our wages low. And that surplus, they pocket. And so this is classic. It's been going on for a long time. But we have to fight it. And that's what Patricia and other folks are doing right now in this sectoral strike. It's very inspiring. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julius. Okay, Patricia.
She's muted.
You're muted, sister.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So the 6.5 retroactive pay, it is not very much, but we want it. When we actually work it out, it's only a couple $1,000s. But for me, it's the principle of the matter. What is owing to Caesar, that they say, give it unto Caesar. If it belongs to us, give it to us. And we were very, very patient. Over 3 years, we've been trying to go to the bargaining table. This is my first year actually being with the bargaining team and actually going in for bargaining. And I was so disgusted with that lawyer because we were willing to work with the employers, whatever. But when the lawyer looked at us and he told us to live within our means, what is that? What do you mean live within our means? We all looked at each other and said, no, enough is enough because we're not going to get anywhere with this. For the last 3 years, we've only been getting 1%. I've been working as sister-in for over 10 years, just a little over 10 years. Let's say 10 years, 5 months, 6 months. And I'm not even making $30 yet. I have a master's degree in social work, not even making $30. And I love my job. That's why I stay at sister-in. But if we deserve our pay, then give us our pay. Like Julius was saying, inflation is going up. When I go to the grocery store and I pick up 2 bags, that's $100 right there. And I don't even begin to pick up what I really need. And I have to buy the cheapest stuff that I can find while Mr. Ford is out there eating steak. This reminds me of Harris. I remember when Harris came into power and he told us, because at the time, I'm not afraid to say I was on mother's allowance, as we would call it back then. And he cut our mother's allowance and he told us to go eat tuna. Really? While you're out there eating steak. It is only fair that you give us what is due. We're doing work that you would not do. When there's an overdose in the drop-in, it is I who attend to it. When somebody has a trauma and they're in psychosis, Ford is not there for that. It is I and my coworkers who are there for that. And we don't mind doing the job, but it's a very challenging job. When I go into work every day, I can't search anybody's bags. I don't know who has a gun. I don't know who has a knife. I just got to do my work the best to my ability, as well as my coworkers, and pray to God that I go home safely to my children. So whatever is due to me, I would like it. It's not a lot of money, but it's the principle of the matter. And we are, like Julius said, that it's at the top. What's going to happen when the foundation crumbles? Because we are the foundation. He may be at the top, but when the foundation crumbles, this society is going to crumble with it. So wouldn't it be fair to fix the bottom so that the bottom is happy and contented and go to work and do the work that the society needs us to do? Because you know what? We all need to work together. In my culture, they say one hand cannot clap. You need 2 to do it. So all I'm saying to the Ford government is give us our 6.5 retroactive pay. I'm actually 60. So I'm almost in retirement. The little money that I'm trying to save for my retirement now is what I have to dip into to keep going during the strike. So what is mine? Please give it to me. What is my colleagues? Please give it to us. We work darn hard. We work hard. None of us, I don't believe, is on the, the sunshine list. I'm far from that. So give us our money. That's all we're asking. So that when we go to work, we are contented, we do our job peacefully, we do our job competently. Some of us are falling into mental health at work because we're overworked and we're underpaid. And no matter what, we still have to come to work because we have our bills to pay. Just be fair. That's all we're asking. Fairness. And like I said, if we're not careful, like I was telling someone in the line the other day, I'm just 1 paycheck away from sleeping inside. My girl's on the inside. Just 1 paycheck. And Julius, you're right. Sister-in is what it just says. It's an organization of women who are being attacked. most of the organizations that you see out there, we do have some men out there, but most of the organizations are being chaired or run by women. We are nurturers. That's what we do. And he knows this. He knows this, but he's too busy funding his friends in high places, buying jets with our money, playing golf, going to the cottage, and to hell with us. So that's why we're going to stand up there. We're going to fight. We're going to let him know that he's not going to get away with this. Enough is enough, which is what I told the lawyer. Enough is enough. We're done with this. So we're going to stand out there, whether it's rain or shine, we're going to be out there. It's hot. Trust me, it's very hot out there. But we're still out there and we're not going anywhere. Even if he stays out, because I hear he's locked down the government until October the 27th, we will still be there. And believe me, some of our people are getting very tired, but we have to keep encouraging each other to keep on going. Because you know what? If we go back inside, where does that put us? Huh? Let's be real. If we come off the line right now and go back into that workplace, we're dog meat. We're dog meat. And I ain't going to back down and I ain't going to give up. I'm going to stand firm and fight for what belongs to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Okay, so now we're going to move to Bo as our next question, and then to Dave C. All right, so you have up to 3 minutes. Bo?
Oh, hi, thank you so much. I wanted to, I work in a similar organization, Street Health. So I understand, I think we're actually connected. So I understand some of the challenges that you're facing at work. I had a question. How much of the struggles that are related that you're having at Sisterin, do you believe are related to the privatization of public health services? I just wanted to see also if you could explain why it's better for these critical services to be handled by community organizations rather than private or government-led organizations.
Okay, so now we will move to Dave C. and then go back to our panel.
There we go. Okay, during this meeting, I have tried to find how I join a picket line. It keeps pre-entering Thunder Bay, and I say, well, I'm a pedestrian taking public transit in Toronto because I believe in public services, but I don't know how I can get to Thunder Bay. So I'm just wondering if you could clarify that. The other thing that I wanted to make a remark about is what is this 6.5? Because from the outside, I don't understand, but it appears that even though we got rid of Bill 124 and certain OPSEU workers have been, I'll say, properly compensated, obviously this sector is not. And I could say, speaking somewhat broadly across the Ontario economy, to go and basically say this is sectoral bargaining, I say, well, finally, because you can't even get Tim Hortons organized because they're all individual franchise owners. And so you look at social service agencies and say, here's what our mission is. So how is it that you can find money for jets, but you can't find money for people in need? Because you're not serving as the premier to go and, if you like, advantage your friends or whatever. You're here in public service for us. You work for us. And he doesn't seem to have grasped that. And a lot of people in Ontario don't seem to get it either. I'm thanking you for this presentation because I tend to work mostly in the private sector. And it's not so easy to, even as someone in labor, understand what's going on with the public sector. So I really thank you for this. And I'd really appreciate some help because I've noticed with sistering that, well, first of all, it was like 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. and then it was 7 to 9 or something like that. And now we have a musical event on July the 10th. And I'm saying, when can I just join a picket line? Because I've tried with sistering, I've tried with OPSEU, I've tried with how, joining a picket line, and I'm finding out I cannot really find this information. So if you could help me on that, I'd really appreciate it. And I'll just say I'm a labor delegate with my union, so I have an obligation to support workers who are in distress because of unjust provincial governments and laws.
Thank you. So we will go back to the panel now. We're going to start with Sister Patricia and then Julius with the questions that were asked.
Well, to join our picket line is very easy. Just come on by and join us. The more the merrier. The more we have, the stronger our line is. It's Sister in, I love Surrey Place because Surrey's got like 300 out there. At Sister in, we are 70 employees, but to be very honest, I think there's only about 30 to 40 of us out there. And we do have 3 shifts that we cover. There's a morning shift, there's an afternoon shift, and there's an evening shift. So all you got to do is come on the line and let us know who you are, pick up a sign, and just rally with us. We don't turn anyone away. In fact, the more people we have from the community that joins our line, the better off we are. We're so proud of the community when they pass by and they honk, because that gives us energy and it gives us encouragement to keep going on, because we know the community is with us. And for 7 weeks being out there, we haven't really had any pushback, terrible push. We've had a little, but the majority of it has been very, very positive. And I thank the community every night for encouraging us and for supporting us. So just come on the line with us. We have no problem with that. Did I answer your question fully, I hope?
I don't, Dave, are you from the Toronto area? Like what part of the Ontario are you talking from? Dave?
Okay. There was a community health organization, I believe, on Queen Street. I live in downtown Toronto. I live near the really good Maple Leaf Gardens and Allen Gardens, so I can easily get to someplace else in Toronto. And
well, this one that the sister is talking about, the one that the sister is talking about is on Bloor Street between Ossington and Dovercourt.
I have to ask if I could please just ask a question. They said that they were going to be on the picket line until about 4 o'clock. And I showed up around 3:30. No one was there. And then there were the LCBO workers, and I found out they were going to be at a location over a certain time period. I arrived, they were not there. I'm not saying that you're not there, and I'm glad you are, to put in all the hours you do, but I don't want to find out that I show up and, well, today is concluded, and there's no way to even find this out by and large. We're labor, so we're desperate to put our message out at all. So if you say all that time and I'm saying, well, do you take breaks or whatever, or what is the time we should be there? Because that would help a lot. Because if I know if I'm later than that, maybe no one will be there. And then, what do I do?
Okay,
I know they're every day from Monday through Friday. That's for sure. I see them there.
We actually put on 2 more days, so they're out there Saturday and Sunday until 4. So normally we start at 6 o'clock in the morning because we try to catch the scabs, the agency workers that are going in, and try to block them. Do some hard picket in there, and that team works from 6 to 11, and then you have another team that comes on from 11 until 3, and then my team comes on from 3 till 7. But on Friday nights we go later. We go till 9 o'clock at night. And usually we're out there Friday. That's our Friday night party. That's where we invite all the community to come out, all the participants to join us. So we're there. Sometimes, and I'm sorry that you came to our picket line and we were not there, sometimes we go and join other lines as well to support them. Like one time we went to the Ford Fest, those kind of things. When they need a mass group of people, we will leave our line to go to another line. We try not to do it so often because then we leave our line and they think that we're gone. No, we're not. We're coming back. But yeah, we support each other along the way. So it depends. And sometimes it's sudden. Like we might just hear 2 days before we got to pack up and go somewhere else, right? So I'm sorry about that. But there is a number. I can leave my number with you. You can call. You can even call OPSEU office, the Wellesley office down there. Megan Fusto is our rep. And she's usually very, very good with returning messages. She's an amazing staff rep. So if you can call the OPSEU office at Wesley and just ask for Megan Custo, you will get through. My apologies that you did come to our line and we were not there though. But we try to support each other along the way, because sometimes lines are small. Like one weekend, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, or we went up to Broadview Village to support them, those kind of things. So we don't just do our line, we do other lines. But we've also extended our line, like I said, Saturday and Sunday. And I think the girls are there from 8 in the morning until 4.
Okay, thank you, sister. Julius, any of the questions that was asked? If you got any
Yeah.
information.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sure. So I just wanted to comment on the 6.5%. So I don't know the exact answer, but what I can say is that generally in when there are rounds of bargaining with the employer or with the government, trends are set in terms of bargaining. So the 6.5% comes from the OPS. That's what the OPS was awarded by the mediator when we won the court case against Bill 124. It was 6.5%. It was 2% for 2019, 2020, 2%, 2021, 2.5%. So my guess is that the folks the demand for that number comes from the sort of standard that has already been set as a result of the court win against Bill 124. Now, and it's sort of you could argue that it's an easier number to argue for because the trend has already been set with the OPS and probably other employers as well. But it is also below the rate of inflation. Right? Like the cost of living from 2019, which is 7 years ago, is anyway. I mean, the compensation I think that you're asking for is over the 3-year period, I'm guessing, but it was higher. The cost of living was higher over that period of time. So that's something to keep in mind for folks who are involved in the labor movement, that you always want to aim high, because when sectors of the industry accept low wages, it impacts everybody moving forward in that round of bargaining. And so that's, when people make big wins, it can be argued to make big wins for everybody as well. So it's something to keep in mind. That's it for me.
Okay. All right. So I did see your hand up, I think, once, Sham, but I don't see it anymore. Do you wish to speak, Shams? Yes, go ahead. You have up to 3 minutes. You're muted, yes.
Sam, could you please put up your hand so I could find you easily?
She's the top row on my screen. Can you hear me, Sham? Just nod if you can. Okay, could you put, there you go. She put her hand up to her hair. That's Sham. We can't hear you. Do you have your mic? I know your microphone is on, but are you speaking into it?
Turn up your microphone.
Turn up the volume.
Can you hear me at the moment?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Sorry about
That's good. No, it's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that was an earlier note before, just regarding capitalism and everything, and like bouncing off of Patricia and everybody else's thoughts. But yeah, I think even like so I work with Patricia at Sistering. I'm also in youth staff, has also worked at other social service organizations. This wasn't a question, but it was more regarding even in understanding why we need these raises and retroactive pays and to remove this wage cap, because first of all, it's unfair. But even as an individual who's not necessarily new to the field, but I'd say a new graduate, someone who's been working for 2 years in social services, it can feel discouraging to see individuals who have been in the field for so many years, like seniors in terms of their work experience, and they're not being compensated enough for that. And it really makes me I guess, nervous for the future of the field as well. I mean, often as a new graduate, like people speak about, hey, if you're entering social services, you're going to have concerns about your own survival and your own finances. And are you sure that's the sector you want to get into? And it really makes me think about the value we put into servicing the community. I mean, even when we talk about funding, what funding is being allocated to, why does it always negate the importance of taking care of members of our community? And at a point, it makes it feel as though people see that as negligible part of the population. And not to go on I sidetrack a lot, but it reminds me of, for example, during COVID times when people were ignoring the impact on people who are immunocompromised or people with disabilities, and why we all need to work together to protect each other. And I think that's why it's important for the community to also step up and show the government that it's important for us to get funding too, because a lot of us end up in these positions. And I mean, now you see with the cuts to education as well, how many people will be at the poverty line in order to fund their own education as well. I don't want to go into the whole topic of what he deemed as important when it comes to these careers, but a lot of us are entering different fields that are struggling at the moment. I know even when distributing flyers and speaking to people, I was speaking to a nurse who mentioned she has 2 nursing jobs, 1 PSW job, and I don't remember the 4th job, but it adds to the point of burnout, and we don't want to not give the right energy to these individuals who are already struggling so much, but we also need to be able to survive ourselves. So sorry, I put my hand down because everybody said that point, but it really does point down to capitalism at the end, and like what we deem as important and which members of the community we deem as important members of the community. Because I mean, I've heard too, even with healthcare services, how they're really going through it right now with supporting individuals who are going through overdoses and the high rates of deaths. And that's because of the closures of supervised consumption sites. So you see how everything is connected all together, but yet more pressure needs to be put on the government, not just for us as workers, but for the future of individuals and their ability to survive in this very fast-paced world we're living in. I mean, it makes sense. At a point, a lot of us will have to hold more than one job at the same time. And I've had that
Please
mindset.
step up.
Just a graduate, you're new, right? I'm new to the field. Naturally, I have to work my way up there. But when you see that there's no way to work your way up there, because people like Patricia who've been here for years and decades are barely surviving as well, then what value are we putting into this field? So I don't know, maybe that's more of a message to the community as well, people who are not necessarily in this field, but I think pressure needs to be put into also like educating the community more on how this is valuable work, whether it supports themselves or not.
Well, thank you, Sister. No, it was very important what you had to say, and especially you're in the field, so we need to hear, not just from Patricia, which is very, very important, and I'm sure she also would want to hear your voice because every voice is important in the struggle. Okay, so thank you for what you had to say. So, and was another question that was in the chat, and it was asking about the state of negotiations at the moment. And then I'm going to go to Tom, and then we will come back to the panel. Go ahead, Tom.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. I guess this is, well, whoever wants to answer it. I think Julius might be in a better position. I was reading some material from the OPSEU website recently that indicated there had been a report done. I don't know if it was with recently or a year or two ago, but looking at the role of private corporations in administering public programs. And they mentioned there was more than $1 billion that have been funneled through 3 private corporations who were administering public public programs, such as the ones the sisters are involved in that are with us today. I don't know if you have any information on that. And apparently there's very limited transparency. It's 3 companies. They name them. I don't have that at my fingertips right now. I never heard of any of them. But they're scooping a significant share of the limited resources that are available to this sector. And that's an issue that I would think needs to be dealt with. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back and I will go because the state of negotiations was one of the questions asked. I'm going to start with you, Patricia. I have up to 5 minutes to answer any of these questions that was asked.
I was gonna say, one of the things I've learned in life is there's a feminist quote that says the person is the political is the person. So depending on who's in power, that's what we're gonna feel. I've come to also learn, a single mother. I've been a single mother for many, many, many years. I've come to learn that when certain government are in, they try to keep certain groups of people very tired. And when you're tired, you can no longer fight. And that's what I believe is going on in this system. They are keeping a certain group of people very, very tired and frustrated so that we will no longer fight anymore. But I'm saying that we have to stand up, take a deep breath, and keep going. Because really, we are the majority and not the minority. And we have to stand up. And to the rest of your question, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Well, one of the questions was, the other mostly was statements and maybe a question for Julius, but a question to you, sister, is what is the state of the negotiations at the moment?
The state of the negotiation.
Anything you're allowed to say, of course.
It's not good. I'm going to be very honest. It's not very, very good. I went to a meeting in Oshawa just, I believe, last week, because the weeks are going by so fast. We are now told that the lawyers will be going back, the OPSEU lawyers as well as the government lawyers will be going back to court on July the 9th. So we're waiting for what the results of that will be. We've also asked our employer to stand with us by just signing a letter. A worth fighting for a campaign and publicly acknowledging that they're standing with us. And they send us back a letter saying that they can't do it. So they can't do it. So we're out there still fighting and we're still waiting and we're still gonna continue to plead our case and to fight to let them know that we're not going to go away. And I think it's because there's certain things I don't want to say, but we have people on our board that are not very honest, who are working for certain individuals that basically assist in the Ford government. So I believe that as a fifth-rate employee, we're in a very difficult spot right now. So we have to fight those who are basically undermining us. Because for me, to sign a simple letter to say that you're supporting your employees or you're supporting your staff, there's nothing wrong with that. But you obviously told us you will not sign that letter. You're sending us back to the website that you put a letter on there for the community, but the letter is just formalities. It has nothing to do with helping us, really. So right now, our bargaining does not look very well right now, but we know they're trying to hold fort. They're trying to bully us. They're trying to make us feel like we're not going to get anywhere, but we are getting anywhere. We are getting somewhere because now they're acknowledging us. Before we were not being acknowledged. Now they're acknowledging us. So we're just going to continue to put on the pressure. They say the race is not for the swift, but for those who can endure it. And we're going to endure it.
Looks like it's an internal as well as an external battle that you're fighting. But you're right. You have to keep up the struggle. And yeah. I'm hoping, and as a lot of people online, and maybe not everybody, if this is your first, will know that this is recorded, and people can see this on the Socialist Action YouTube, and they will see that it's not just OPSEU that we're members that we're talking to come out in solidarity, no matter what part of OPSEU you belong to, but all the unions should be out behind this. Because you see, we can't work alone. We have to stand shoulder to shoulder with our sisters and brothers in all unions, whether we're public or private, because together we can win, but alone it's very, very difficult. So I'm asking that everybody to reach out to all of your
Thank
unions
you.
here today, and to I will also put a word out to my union, to a couple of sisters in my union, which is Canadian Union of Postal Workers, to see if some help can come from there. Okay,
And I'm
so
sorry to cut you, Elizabeth. We're also asking to put the pressure on Sisterin.
yes, yes,
We need to put the
yes.
pressure on Sisterin, and we need to put the pressure on the board because they need to stand behind us. If they don't
Yes,
stand
so-
behind us, then we're like 2 steps backwards. We need to get the board and the ED to stand beside their employees.
That's right. So it's an internal thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, Julius. Anything you
Yeah,
want to
well,
say?
I don't have a whole lot to say, Tom. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the report that you mentioned, but I think, we should all take into consideration, why would a private company want to ever take over any of these services? And the answer, of course, is profit. And it's not just profit through government subsidies, because if you own a company and if you provide shares to investors, you need the profits to go up over time so that people invest in your company. So not only do they get money from the government, but they take it out of who? The wages of workers, the wages and compensation of workers, and services provided to the public. So privatization is always a disaster. Okay, no private company is going to do this work and maintain or increase the level of services out of the kindness of their hearts. It goes against the bottom line. That's all there is to it, objectively, right? So we need to be challenging privatization in all of its forms. In regards to, the Doug Ford's government and the lack of transparency, of course, that's very familiar with a lot that's been going on, so it's no surprise at all. But I suspect that over time there'll be light shed on a lot of these deals, and people will look back at this time um, and hopefully not forget it and think about that next time that they go to the polls during election time.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to say
but
thank you very much for the invitation to speak along with Patricia, and it's been great to meet you, Patricia.
You too,
And
Julius.
please visit the picket lines if you can, and we'll see you again soon.
okay, Patricia, I see your hand. If you want to add something?
I just wanted to add to what Julius says. It is about power and money. Remember back in 2014, when both the Ford brothers were trying to privatize everything, libraries, the garbage industry, all that stuff they were trying to privatize. And nobody thought that they were in the book. But when we looked in that book, Doug Ford and Rob Ford was at the top of the list to privatize everything. And really, would you want your nursing homes or your shelters to be privatized? People are not held accountable for what would go on in there because it's privatized. Nobody would care. We have agency workers in there now who don't care. We have the clients coming out and telling us. We have multiples of clients who have left Sisterin because we're not in there, because the treatment is unfair, because the workers don't care. We're being told. We've had, thank God for them, ICHA, the medical clinic upstairs. They walked out because we walked out, because they told us, we know the work that you do. We know that you guys care. So privatization is not going to make things better. It's going to make things worse, because you're going to have more debts on your hands because people don't care and because people are not going to be held accountable for their actions. Thank you.
Okay. So is there anybody that hasn't spoken, especially if we have somebody, a striker here? Anybody that hasn't spoken at all yet? Or Carrie, is there a question in the chat that needs to be asked before we go on to a second time speaker? Anybody that would like to say something that hasn't spoken? Nothing in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of more questions. I think I saw Barry's hand there once or a second time, but you'll tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm going to go to Dave, and then I'm going to go to Barry, and then go to Patricia for a final word. And I think we will wrap up this webinar. So, Dave, up to 3 minutes. Go ahead.
This will be very brief. What Brother Arscott was asking about, OPSEU itself released a report on June 3rd, 2026 that talks about these three corporations that have had literally 200% or more increase in government funding from Ford while the workers are starving. The OPSEU article is worth fighting for. Report, open the books, fund our services. And I believe I've succeeded in putting a link into the chat that can direct you to this. And it is disgusting, shameful, and everything that is anti-worker that Ford stands for. So that would conclude my remarks.
Okay, thank you. Barry, up to 3 minutes.
Well, things are changing, and the workers at Sistering, Local 540, are making things change. And they're taking the scales off our eyes so that we can see what the power relations are in society, that some work is derogated as less than important, and the work of a few billionaires is highly rewarded. This is a system that needs to be changed. And because people can see increasingly the gap between rich and poor as it grows, they can see the problems that are bearing down on society. The burning of fossil fuels means that there's climate change, there's climate injustice. Communities are on the verge of being burned out as forest fires spread across the continent, especially from the west and the northwest. All of these things are products of a system that puts profit before people. We need to turn that around. And many workers, not a majority yet, but many workers experience this economic uncertainty, and it means that their political loyalty is up for grabs. Traditional alliances are under strain. The NDP historically was the party of labor, and it's failing now despite workers' increasing economic and political anxiety. Where is that? One of the days I was on the picket line, a member of the NDP provincial caucus at Queen's Park came by, and yes, he expressed his solidarity with the workers. Yes, he even held a picket sign, which I put in his hands for a little while. But his message, the message was, elect us and we'll fix things. That's the wrong message. You know, capitalism can't be fixed, and least of all will it be fixed by those who spread illusions in a capacity to make a system different than it was designed to be. This tiger ain't going to get new stripes. So what we see is a breakaway of anti-capitalist opinion from the NDP and a coming together of socialist, anti-colonial, anti-oppression forces, giving rise to a phenomenon known as the socialist movement. Capitalism can't be fixed, the socialist movement. And those of us involved in that through Socialist Action are doing all that we can to publicize this strike, to talk about how important it is, and to talk about a new political alignment that puts the working class in first place. It says that the money that our sweat and time produce should go to make things better for humanity and not to fund greater contributions to NATO, which is what the Liberal government in Ottawa has in mind. So that's the message from here. The reason why we're interested in these things as socialists is because we know that only the aroused and organized working class can change society in a progressive direction. And that's always been true. If we're lagging behind now, it's only because we lack the leadership, we lack the political organization that is necessary in order to drive forward. So my appeal is to everyone listening to this show. Join Socialist Action and participate in making a difference, and follow the proud example of Patricia Crooks and the workers at Sistering, well, maybe there's both, showing us how a sectoral strike is the way to go. No more division, unity. Our strength is in unity, and we will win. We will change society from the bottom up. Thank you, Patricia and Julius.
Okay, so we're going to go to Patricia for any last words, and then we'll close our panel with Julius. Okay, Patricia, go ahead.
I'm going to go back to the person is the political and the political is the person. Depending on what government is in power, that's how your future is going to look. So get rid of the capitalists, the people who are greedy and money hungry, and start, we need to start. We people, working class people, need to start getting into politics and starting to run and fix this system if we can. Because without us, our society is going to get really, really grim. Like I said before, I'm looking out for the future generation, our young ones that are coming up, people who are finished going to school, they're finishing schools, there's no jobs out there. Healthcare is looking really, really bleak. Inflation is getting really, really high. So I'm asking everyone to please take a stand. If you can come and join us on the line at 962 Bloor Street West at Sisterin, we would love to have you, because the fight doesn't just stop with us. It has to continue. And we have to start taking a stand to let those capitalists, to let Ford know that we're not going away. And we'll continue to fight until we get what's ours and what belongs to us. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Julius.
Well, I don't really have anything else to add. Just wanted to, say that, solidarity is very important, and I hope that we all come out of this experience in a better situation than going in. I'm sure we will. We need these examples. Workers need these examples so that we can get a better quality of living for all of us.
Yes, that's for sure. It's for sure, Julius. And as we say, the struggle continues for sure. And always keep in mind, the longer the picket lines, the shorter the strike. Okay, so it's power with the people. So anyway, thanks to everyone who participated in making today's event a success. To our guest speaker, Sister Crooks and Comrade Julius, our technical producer, Kiri, and our political producer, Barry. Socialist Action is celebrating its 32nd anniversary. Over the coming months, SA will host more webcasts, picnics, demonstrations, campaigns, and the founding convention of the new socialist movement in late fall. The Socialist Action Cross Country Convention was held on Saturday, June the 20th. So we're in a new year for SA. For more information about Socialist Action conferences, forums, film nights, and study groups held throughout the year, please send your phone number and email address to us at SA website, www.socialistaction.ca, or you can just give us a call at 16R, just 647, 986-1917. So once again, thank you all for being here today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be active. Bye for now.